Hello and welcome to Champ Select, your go-to competitive Legends of Runeterra podcast. I'm Alex. Joining me are my two co-hosts, as per usual, Noble.
Hello.
And Hugh.
Hello.
And today we got the new patch. It is out. It is Friday. So the patch has been out for 2 or 3 days now. We've gotten a little bit of our first impressions. The meta is still kind of up in the air. There's a lot of questions still to be answered, and today I think we're going to be talking about our first ideas for how the meta is going to shake out, what decks we've liked, how the ladder's been going. Obviously, it's new set, so it's super exciting. There've been some big splash cards that I think a lot of us weren't necessarily expecting, or at least I wasn't. So, you guys have anywhere in particular you want to start with the new meta?
I can just give my rundown on what I experienced. I've probably only played like 25 games, and I think I've probably won 15 of them and lost 10 of them, trying out various concepts. I played a little bit of Zerarelia, felt powerful, but I went like 1-3, and then I moved on to this Sumpworks deck because it looked cool. Had a pretty decent win rate on that, but it was treating me less well. It was treating me very well the first day of the patch. I went like 5-1 on it, and I went like 1-3, 1-4 on it today. Tried out Monofiora, didn't do as well on that deck either. And then last I was kind of playing some of these Masters lists that I saw, namely Azir Darius, which is what the first person who got to Masters used to climb. Pretty good aggro deck. When I played it, it felt significantly worse than Spiders.
Yeah, that was kind of how I felt about that deck too.
And also playing a little bit of Vi Draven, which is just mostly... can be summed up as putting its discard aggro, but instead of drinks, we're trying to kill them with Vi plus Might, which does kill the fuck out of people. So
it kills people real hard.
Definitely murders people. I've had my Vi's hit for like 25 over the course of a game. So that's very good. Merciless Hunter, as good as advertised. That card is absolute nonsense. I hopped onto like Alan's Q's stream for like actual 10 minutes, and the very first thing was like, someone was like, well, they didn't even play any champions. He's like, he played 3 Merciless Hunters. That's 3 champions. And they don't even turn into a shit spell when you have the first one in play.
You just get more 3-mana 4/3s. They're all good.
The card is very, very good. I'm happy to definitively say that anyone who said that card is maybe worse than Bakai Sandspinner is super wrong. And Bakai Sandspinner is nonsense
really good. Yeah.
So that's where I was at. Some workers seemed much better than I expected.
Yeah, we'd love to talk about that deck for a little bit. So I know we've all played. So for those of you who may not have seen this deck yet, it is a Shadow Isles, Piltover and Zon, Treant Sumpworker deck, which is the new 2-mana 1/2 elusive that when you summon the second one of them, turns into the 2-mana 4/2. Or turns into the 4/2 elusive that attacks and deals 1 to all enemies in the enemy nexus.
Yeah, it obliterates the first one.
Yeah. So, and it's like often championless even as well. So it's like a championless aggressive deck. I've seen a version with Teemo in it as well. That's the version I actually played the most, was a version that had Teemo in it.
I don't like that little rat.
You don't like the rat?
He's just not good.
What's wrong with the what?
He doesn't do anything.
He attacks for like 2-ish.
On average.
Yeah, probably 2 on average.
But less a lot of the time.
But when they draw that buff cap at 1, the feeling's never better. So
that's fair. That's fair.
Regardless, like, so it's this aggro deck that's got these weird, like, kind of nutty combo draws where it's like trying to put together a bunch of like iterative improvements and fading memories.
It's kind of burble fishy.
Yeah, a little bit. Where it's just trying to put like way too much elusive power on board at one time, and it's also kind of obnoxious because sometimes it's clean up all your sparring students or whatnot while they're doing it. And that deck, like, I thought that deck was busted the first few times I played. Like my first like 5 experiences with the deck were like, get annihilated by it when they have 3 Sumpwork posses on turn 4. All right, well, that was awful. And then the next game was like the exact same thing, like die on turn 4 to the 3rd Sumpwork posse. Like, okay, that's ridiculous. Maybe I should play the deck. And then I played the deck and never did the Sumpwork thing. And like the only card that I could ever kill anybody with was Stygian Onlooker.
And Doom Beast.
And like Doom Beast and these like Neverglade Collector burn packages with like used casket salesman.
Yeah.
Which really felt like I was doing it and I was like, man, this like, is this really the best thing that I can be doing right now is like burning people out with used Cast Salesman and Neverglade Collector. Like this can't possibly be the best deck.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It does have some really busted starts, and like maybe if it gets refined, like
the rest of the deck is kind of a pile. So like when you're favoring Memories Doom Beasts, like that's not where you want to be.
The deck kind of like it clearly has a plan, and the rest of the deck's kind of just trying to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you kind of feel that. Like sometimes you don't execute your plan, and then you're playing the rest of the deck that's kind of just trying to get there.
Yeah.
And it really feels like that because you're like, well, I got these like Stygian Onlookers and a bunch of these weird like Unto Dusks.
I have like Hapless Aristocrat in my deck.
Yeah, like
it's pretty wacko.
And you're just like a couple Glimpse Beyonds, and you're like, I don't really.
Funsmith maybe.
There's an Everglade Collector. Yeah, apparently you played a version with Funsmith.
Yeah,
I don't know. What's your take on this deck, Hugh? I know you've played.
I played a decent amount of it. I also played the Teemo version, and every time I played
Squad.
Yeah, no. Every time I played Teemo, I was like, why is Teemo in our deck? Every single time I was like, he hit them for one, put 5 puff caps in their deck, and then died.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Every time.
That's what the card does every time. If you didn't want that, then
I don't want that. Why does anyone want that?
I don't know. I thought it was all right.
It's like I just want anything else.
You're right. It wasn't all that impactful.
What if we did like a champ? What if we played like Elise?
What cards were you playing instead of Teemo? Do you have any idea? Was it like the Funsmiths? Because
yeah,
I'm kind of off that.
I wasn't playing Neverglade Collector in that version, though I did play a Neverglade Collector version for a little bit. And then I don't know. I had like a random Get Excited, like there were the Doom Beasts, like just trying to kind of cobble together a win at the end there, and like. Happened a good amount, but stuff like used Cast Salesman was pretty annoying when my opponents were also playing aggro decks.
Used Cast Salesman actually was like the sleeper overperformer from that deck, I think.
It's good, but like when you're not doing the sump work thing, you're playing a lot of 3-mana 3/2s with like ETB effects.
Yeah, and it's pretty bad. Yeah, and it doesn't feel fast enough to try and like compete against the like Azir burn decks.
Yeah.
Right? So like
the Azir Aurelia ones, is that what you mean? Or
no, I mean the like Azir burn decks, or like Azir just Noxus. Like the straight up burn decks. Like the Azir Noxus, Azir Darius, or whatever, like didn't really feel fast enough to compete with decks like that.
Doom Beast helps.
Yeah, Doom Beast does help.
It's really clunky in the deck.
They play Doom Beast too. And and it's clunky. So, and then what was I going to say? Against Azir Aurelia, I actually think that the deck is quite good.
Agreed.
Like pretty favored, I think, which is like probably why I got the initial impression that it was really good.
So much Azir Aurelia day 1 and day 2.
Yeah,
it was everywhere.
It's still really popular.
It's still
right now.
Prevalent. Yeah.
So. And I guess that means that we should probably segue into that.
Yeah.
Azir Aurelia. So that's the other deck that really exploded, I think, on like day 1 was Azir Aurelia. So people were initially pretty hyped about like Aurelia Misfortune when she got spoiled. She's like, oh, you can flip really fast. Turns out Azir is just absurd with the Blade Dance package. Like he just flips so fast and he puts so much power into play.
Yeah, he just
like,
auto flips.
Yeah. Azir is the best part of this deck. So like Aurelia is the new part, I think. Yeah. And so like people are like, oh man, this Aurelia champ's like really good. And like Aurelia is pretty good. But like she's mostly just like good in the deck. But like this is the Azir deck.
Yeah. And we posted a little kind of like our initial thoughts tier list with one of our friends, Closing Time, also known as Nico. He was on the podcast last week. And we posted a tier list with our thoughts about the new cards and kind of summed up that like, yeah, maybe the package is really good, but like make no mistake, like Aurelia is a powerful card and she's like a powerful enabler, but like you don't need to like Mystic Shot her on sight really. No. Like she's just like a 3/2 with quick attack. Like
Azir is the problem. Yeah. Because like, you know, even when the deck has all of these one random 1/1s that it's attacking you with. You know, you can have an Aurelia and like an Emperor's Dais or whatever, and then, you know, sure, I get attacked with 3 1/1s an extra time a turn. Like that's not really that big of a deal. It's a big deal when the 1/1s start getting extra power.
Yeah,
whether it's like Inspired Marshal or Azir,
and then also Azir's the fact that he makes an extra 1/1 every time too.
Yeah, is like a really big deal. You can very quickly end up, you know, playing Ribbon Dancer and attacking for 8 power or whatever.
Yeah,
like that happens all
nonsense.
the time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, that's just kind of all that I was going to say. The deck is also surprisingly resilient to things like Avalanche because the blades start attacking immediately. Azir has that big booty.
Oh, Azir is thick.
Yeah, to make sure that he doesn't go down too easily. And stuff like Inspiring Marshal, like the Sand Scouts deck was always pretty good against stuff like TLC. because it just went bigger in a way that was hard to deal with all these rallies. And that's what essentially the blade triggers are doing. The blade dance triggers are doing is a rally effect with all of these like when you attack triggers. And
so that's one of the things that I think, I don't know, I guess I underestimated or maybe overestimated TLC's ability. I thought TLC was going to be much better than it has performed thus far this expansion, because I was expecting to just like...
And looking at mobiletic win rate, it does still have like a 54% win rate.
Yeah, it's still good. Unsurprisingly, you know, it's still like day 2 or 3 of the expansion, right? Like there's still people playing a lot of really bad decks. Like,
that's another thing. Is that
just
like
playing a good deck is usually going to net you a 55% win rate on opening weekend.
Yeah, because people are trying out brews. Like this Aziralia deck that did prove to be quite good. People are talking about being too good because it has like a 60% win rate or whatever. But that's another thing is like, if you're the best of the brews, right, when everyone's bringing brews and it turns out your brew does this really, really powerful thing and you just start refining it, it's going to do well. There's a lot of good things going on, too, like syncopations of, like, big sparring students and stuff. Green Glade duos. I just killed the hell out of someone with it. It was just, like, duo into, like, turn 2 duo, turn 3 duo, Dune Keeper, whack you, and then, like... And then I just killed them on my turn 5. Like, I just took their open. They were playing Aziralia too, and they just, like, blade danced a bunch and opened. And then I just, like, played Azir, and then I played a blade dance card on turn 5, and then they just, like, died to, like, actual 15 power of elusive from the Green Glade duos.
Yeah, Green Glade duo is pretty nonsense. And Sparring Student, I think, is, like, one of the best cards in this deck. The first version of this deck I played didn't have any copies of Sparring Student in it, and that was like
big miss.
That was like the first big addition to this deck where I was like, oh man, I played one game with the Sparring Student in my deck, played it on turn 1, and then attacked with like an 8/8 Sparring Student on like turn 3, and I was like, okay,
oh my god,
holy moly, like ooh, I messed up by not having this one in the first version.
Turns out lots of cheap bodies that come in attacking to make your attack triggers go off is a pretty powerful package.
Yeah, and that's one of the, as I was kind of alluding to earlier, like the fact that all of these things are bringing in and attacking immediately makes it so that you don't actually have that bad of a TLC matchup, right? Like into Azir lifts through Avalanche, so like the TLC has kind of been underperforming, and I think that's a big reason why Aziralia is actually like playable. Like I was pretty concerned that if it was going to be bad against TLC, like the deck was just not going to have legs.
I have still had Withering Whales kill 8 units on my board, and I do mean 8 because like 4 of them were attacking.
Yeah,
and then like the other 4 were on. Like it was like a Dune Keeper and his guy, and like
a Dancing Droplet,
and like a Green Glade duo, and then like 2 dudes that are attacking.
Yep.
Yeah, Dancing Droplet has felt all right. With and against that card, I haven't been super impressed.
It never really feels that impactful, but it does feel nice to like have a good target for your homecomings and your like lead and follows.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's a good addition to the deck, and I think it because the deck does run out of gas too. So like, having the ability to like start cycling your spells later. If you're like, because you really need to be drawing units to try and like win the long game. So the fact that you can like kind of try to churn through your spells with the Dancing Droplet, because almost all your spells are recalling units, right?
Yeah.
So that feels pretty good, but you're right. I mean, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel great.
We're not playing Monastery of Harana or anything.
No,
like really abusing it.
I wonder if Monastery of Harana would be all right in that deck. It'd probably go a little bit bigger, but I'm sure it'd be a little more resilient.
I played against a deck abusing exactly Monastery of Harana and Droplet, and my opponent drew, I think, 22 cards or something absurd with it.
Oh my god!
And it just didn't do anything.
The little droplet, that danced.
Was that a Karma deck?
No, it was oh god, what was it? It was a Lysandra deck?
Lysandra deck.
We're bouncing Lysandra to make lots of Frozen Thralls.
Was it the Ionia TLC deck with Dancing Droplet?
That used to play her Monastery?
I don't. I think
that was a one.
It kind of felt like it because they just did literally nothing all game, and then I eventually beat them with this like.
Well, that sounds like that deck, yeah.
Yeah, that does sound like that.
And I was just like, this could be good if they did anything with the cards they drew. Anything. And they eventually got to the point where all they did was they'd play the Droplet, bounce it with the Sanctuary, and then every single turn they'd burn the card they drew from their deck because they had 2 monasteries out.
Oh.
And they would make, and then they also had, what else? They also had like a ballistic bot.
Oh no.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
Oh, that can't be right.
What was this deck? They had one more
Were
thing.
you playing the Singleton Gauntlet, Hugh?
No. There was something that was making a 3rd card, and I don't remember what it was. But they were making two sanctuaries and a 3rd card every single turn, and they just couldn't get enough cards out of their hand.
Oh yeah.
And they just sort of eventually lost, and I couldn't really win because
They just deck.
no, they didn't deck. My deck was also not great. I was playing like a version of, basically I was playing Burblefish with Sumpworker in it.
Just like actual TF Burblefish.
Yeah.
With some work. That sounds
really
hot.
sick. Actually, was it good?
It was fine. It definitely wasn't bad, I don't think. And if it was bad, it's only bad because Burblefish is bad, not because like Sumpworker's bad in the deck.
Oh, interesting.
Because you have the 3 iterative improvements.
Yeah, that
and
makes sense.
Burblefish is gonna like make you counterfeit copies sometimes
Sounds
if
alright,
that's
yeah.
what you really want. Like
interesting.
I buy it. That sounds all right to me.
it's definitely fine.
Yeah.
right.
I also wanted to say I've won at least 2, maybe 3 games against Irelia decks that targeted dancing droplets with their recall spells, the homecomings that were like saving their lives, and then let me Vile Feast their droplet when they could have just targeted a 2/2. So like,
Yeah, be careful.
don't get that greedy.
Yeah.
Like the card is really easy to Mystic Shot. Like just bounce your random 2/3 with no text, or your like 3/3 that makes 2 blades when
the
you
4
play
mana
her.
3/3 that Blade dances too.
Yeah, like just do
What's
that
card
instead.
called? Blade Dancer.
Hell if I know, man.
I don't know.
Whatever it
Blossoming
is.
something.
Yeah,
think it's
Blossom
Blossoming Blade.
Dancer,
I think
Blossoming Blade, something like that. That
right,
card's
pulling
really
up the
good for what it's worth. That card has really impressed me.
Yeah, it's way better than the 2/1. I don't know what you guys were on. I
still think the 2
No,
one's
the 2 one's better, but
like,
you're insane.
The 4 mana 3/3 is really way better than I thought it would be. Also, what was I going to say? Oh, one card in that deck that I want to talk about in particular is Syncopation. Right? Everybody, I think. I'm just going to go ahead and say everybody. Everybody was pretty high on this card.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have officially started seeing versions of Azir Irelia that are cutting Syncopation. For like Navori Conspirator
Oh, yep.
was the
Navori Conspirator is so good in
was
that
the
deck.
one I saw.
Is it?
Yes. In my experience, it is.
Oh, yeah, because it's actually really good to like pick up. Okay, Ribbon Dancer's the 2-drop, and Blossoming Blade, we were right. is the
Blossoming
4-drop.
Blade. Yeah, I was gonna say I haven't gotten to play a single game with that version of the deck, but like I don't know, was Syncopation good for you guys? Like, are you into this? Like, are we over the Syncopation already? Is it not that good?
Because against me, it's been very good. I've never actually played the Azir Aurelia deck. I've been trying to farm it.
How's that been going?
Oh, so well.
Yeah,
Oh my
where are you at on the ladder?
I'm almost to diamond.
Cool. I'm still at like plat 3-0p.
Yeah, I just like got up this morning and just like jammed Monofiora for like a bunch of games, and I'm not okay. It was really annoying. So I got up this morning, started playing. I played against like 6 Azir Aurelias and like 3 Thresh Nasus decks, and then like 1 random thing. I beat all of them. I got to like plat 140 LP, and then I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to start streaming soon, but I need to get breakfast. So I left, got breakfast, came back, took like an hour. And in the hour I was gone, like the ladder changed.
It does. It seriously does.
Especially this early.
It was nonsense. Like I literally, and before I was hitting nothing but Azir Aurelia and Thresh Nasus, which both great matchups.
For Monofiora.
For Monofiora with the Freljord Demacia Fiora deck.
I also want to talk a little bit. I've been seeing a Monofiora deck that's Shurima, but I don't want to talk about.
We'll get to that. And then when I came back, it was nothing but, I don't know if you guys have seen this deck a lot, but suddenly this, whoa, God, what was it? Zoe Vi or Zoe Victor Vi. It's some combination of Zoe's, Victors, and Vi's.
Yeah, that deck like won the seasonal or something.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
At least some people
Something
top
very
32
close.
did. And,
Yeah.
like,
Cool.
Some people wrote some tournament reports with it.
Yeah,
Deck's good.
that matchup is horrendous because they play Thermogenic Beam, they play Hush, and they play a card that we literally can never answer ever. Period. Sunburst.
Yeah, that card
There's
is
literally nothing Fiora can do against Sunburst.
Card's messed up.
I looked at it, they cast it against me, and I was like,
Counter or bust.
I looked down at my hand of Unyielding Spirit, like standalone, sharp sight, elixir of iron. I was like, no,
Crap.
no, nothing works.
Like I would kill for a homecoming.
On top of all of that, they play Solari Priestess, which just turns out we can't answer Falling Comet.
Yeah, same problem.
Nothing we can do there either. We don't have counter spells.
Yeah, that's why that deck is such a good at doing what it does. But if you can beat what it does, damn.
Yeah.
I queued up that deck, and the first game was the mirror. It's that thing, but then I like had one more Fiora, and then he just like drew 10 cards he couldn't cast and just conceded because he could never take any other relevant game action.
Well, while we're on this sidetrack, I do want to talk about this Fiora Shurima deck.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but tell me about it.
I played again. I'm surprised. So when I saw you guys talking about the Mono Fiora deck in the chat, and I have played against this Shurima Mono Fiora deck like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought it was just the new hot tech. Like I thought you guys were talking about all on this bandwagon too. Apparently you guys were on the old like Freljord version. So the new one that I've seen, it's pretty enticing. So here are the benefits to playing the Shurima package. You get Rite of Negation.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Which is a good one, right? You get Counterspell. You get Predict to help smooth out your deck to find your extra copies of Fiora. So you get copies. You get the 2 mana 2/3 that predicts, and you get Ancient Prep, which predicts, and then you also get your 3 Fiora, 3 Rite of Calling.
You get Scrying Sands if you want to.
You get Scrying Sands if you want it to, right? And so you're playing all of those. So you're going to actually find your Fioras more often because most of the time that deck loses, it's to just like not drawing Fiora.
Yes,
or at least a lot of the
Fioras,
time.
or like the first Fiora gets Thermo Beam,
Yeah.
and you need a way to kill them.
And then you just play all the good Demacia pump spells still, and then you play a bunch of the good Shurima spells basically. So you're playing like the Rite of Negation. You're playing. There's like a couple Chrono Shift I think I've seen.
Chrono Shift is
Neat.
Chrono Shift is pretty hot.
Wait,
it's,
what
it's
if
the
we-
unyielding spirit of this version? There's let's see. There's a couple Ancient Hourglasses, which actually were like quite good because like most of the time people like really commit on one turn to try and kill a Fiora, and then you can just like Hourglass it and then comes back the next turn. Like,
and it comes back fully buffed, right?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it keeps all its buffs.
Can we
the deck seemed pretty good
Okay.
to me. Like it
Am I nuts?
a little
for
less
thinking we
powerful,
can-
but way more consistent.
Am I nuts for thinking we can play Zillion in this deck?
I
Like I know that
I wish you
don't
could.
want to write into it, but like all of those other cards sound great with Zillion.
Yeah, I mean,
You're kind of right.
yeah, that's great, but like Zillion does actually nothing for you.
I mean, he predicts like that's and flips.
and-
That's the point.
What? That's not what your win con's Fiora.
Yeah.
He's making you not draw your win con, so
I mean,
you're already losing games from him
the best
existing.
part, but the best part about like Fiora Shen was that you had like so many different angles of attack.
Well, yeah, I
these
know.
decks just
That's
don't
not
have
how this
that.
works.
Yeah.
We're going all in on Fiora. We
And
have
then-
to go all in.
Yeah, and then I played a few games of this deck and didn't draw Fiora and then
Yeah, no, that's just like
and then conceded. No,
pretty much the only time I
also,
lost.
Oh, it's also got like the inner sanctums. It's getting lucky finds. It's like
sure.
trying to do the landmark thing to get the lucky finds with your Fioras. Like,
Sick. Yeah.
it's pretty hot.
Yeah, no, I just used the Freljord version to farm every single Azir deck that came up, and they just disappeared in an hour this morning. And I just like you
Exterminated them all.
They're gone now, and I don't know where they went. I
They're
want
in
them
Masters.
back. I want them back. So now I'm just like playing pirates, and I'm winning games, but I'm just like
Stop it! It's pirates.
You're playing Pirates, not playing against Pirates.
I'm playing pirates, yeah, because of course.
Okay. Anyway, I want to go back to where this started. Syncopation.
Oh, God.
How do you guys feel about Syncopation? Is this
Definitely not. It and Fizz definitely were not the truth.
card? Yeah. Has anybody even tried that?
I haven't seen it.
No, at the moment people brought that up, first of all, I didn't even understand why the interaction was good in the first place, and then I like thought about it,
Yeah, it's
and
like,
then
oh,
I
wait a
figured it
second.
out, and I was like, well, that's dumb. Like that's like one of those things where it's like, well, if I line up this exact scenario, I can maybe eat a Mystic Shot. It's like, well, great, like.
Yeah,
like
1 for 1 to this Mystic Shot.
Yeah,
whatever.
like what's your magical Christmas land here? Like what's
I
best
think
case
it's
scenario?
that you have Fizz in play and then all your units are unkillable.
Well, yeah,
But they can just burn through your syncopations. Like it's not like
Yeah.
targeting a Fizz where they just can't burn through the fizz because it just is
Yeah, you get one save spell, basically. Like,
it's just like what deck is it going in? Like, I thought Syncopation would be incredible because
does anyone know if Kinku Wayfinders finds champions?
I don't think it can. It says followers.
It says followers. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we can't double Zoe off of our.
I want to just get fizzes.
Yeah, I feel like I would have seen somebody doing something like that.
Someone would have tried that, I'm sure.
Yeah, there would be a lot more Teemos. Wait, no, I think I have gotten Teemote with it.
Maybe.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Got a brew for you, baby.
I believe you.
MF Fizz, and then the rest of our cards are Ionia so that we can play Kinku Wayfinders.
Ooh, this deck sounds awful.
Yeah, it does. It really does. What were we talking about?
Syncopation. I think that this card might end up being like not actually a staple of these decks because they're really cute and tricky. And man, I will tell you, the one time I got to do, there was one game in particular I was playing Zero Relia that I remember because it was like turn 8 and I got to play like Irelia Flawless Duet and then like Ribbon Dancer.
Yeah,
like,
baby.
Or it was the 4-mana one. The 4-mana one, whatever it was. 4-mana Blossoming Blade, or whatever. And I had a flipped Irelia, and I had Syncopation, and I had like 3 Blade Surges in my hand in the Syncopation. And there was one turn where my opponent, and on the last turn of the game, my opponent was like,
Do the Blade Surges really make stick around?
No, they don't. They have fleeting, but they last all turn. So you can if you're attacking more than one time in the same turn, you can do multiple switches in the same round, which really feels like playing Irelia. Because like, my opponent would like line up blocks and then boom, switch my Irelia in, and then he's like, all right, here's this removal spell, and I'm like, okay, switch my Irelia with my other 1/1, and it's like, okay. yeah, just like, and then there was the last turn of the game, my opponent. I attacked, I Blade Surge my Irelia in, he Steel Tempest, and then I Blade Surge my Irelia out, and then Blade Surge my Irelia back in, and then like Syncopation, like those
were some tight cues there.
Yeah, and so I like actually did the thing where I attacked with my Irelia, like switched it with another unit to dodge a spell, switched it back in to dodge another spell, and then like Syncopation it over to like dodge like 2 or 3 spells in a row. It was so sick.
That is really sick.
Yeah, I was like, okay. They nailed the Irelia flavor. Like I did it. I had to do was attack 4 times in one turn, and I got to do a bunch of switching.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think where I have ended up on the card is that it's still definitely a very powerful effect. It's just like nothing can really abuse it yet.
Yeah, people are.
Those sparring students are. Big.
Yeah, the big sparring students are like the best way.
Oh yeah.
And people are getting better at playing around it too. I've noticed. Like I got some free kills by people just like not blocking early on. And then I've kind of noticed that that's kind of stopped happening as much. People have kind of figured out that they just need to line up their blocks.
Yeah, Syncopation isn't really good against removal spells when, like, if you use it proactively and then they just like bonk your guy. It's pretty sad.
It's kind of whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Malphite has not really. So this actually gets into what I wanted to talk about for this episode.
Yeah.
Which is, what do y'all look like for when you're building, brewing, and then playing a new deck to kind of know whether or not it's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so basically what are you, when you're playing these new decks, like how are you certain if your deck is good, or like how do you avoid false positives, right? Like there's a lot of people who, like make a brew and get like really attached to their brew or whatever. There's a lot of like, no, it's just really hard. And it's like, if I had a nickel for everybody who said their, like pet deck was just really hard, but it was actually tier 1 that I'd like never heard of, that's absolutely very common, right? So like, how do you avoid getting trapped in the, you built a tier 2 deck and don't get attached to it? And also, how do you know like what decks are good? I'm very bad at brewing decks. So I've gotten quite good at abandoning them. So I'm pretty adept at building a deck, playing 3 games with it, and deleting it. And usually my standards for that are pretty high. And it's mostly just like, a lot of the times, if it just feels like my deck's plan isn't powerful, I'm just off it. So for me with this expansion, the first day it came out, the first deck I tried to build was Zillion Go Hard.
Yeah.
Because it sounded sweet. I like all the cards. I wanted to do it. I wanted it to be good, right?
Yeah.
I try to build this deck. I'm looking at the deck. I'm like, man. All right, we got our Zillions. What other champion do we play? Like a couple Nasus and a Kindred. Sure, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Right? Play a couple random predict dudes, some, merciless hunters, a couple stand spinners, right? The standard Shadow Isles removal spells, put together a reasonable looking deck. And then I looked at the deck. I was like, man, this deck sucks. But I did it on stream. I was like, okay, well, we'll play a few games. But like, even when I constructed the deck, I knew the deck sucked, right? Like sometimes you just look at the pile of cards you're playing and you're like, these are just vanilla beaters. Like this looks like the best draft deck I've ever seen or whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really look like a good constructed deck. Sometimes you can just tell if like the first game I played with Azir Irelia, for example, I killed my opponent on turn 4 by doing some busted shit.
Yeah.
I like played Azir, flipped him on turn 4 with like Ribbon Dancer, and then played Irelia on turn 5 and attacked for like 15 with the first of like 3 attacks, right? Like
it's clear. Yeah.
It was like it just felt powerful, right? Like, when you're playing Zillion Go Hard, you don't have turns that feel busted. The only busted turns you have are the ones where you flip your Go Hard, right? Like
yeah, absolutely.
There's no amount of playing, whatever the 2-mana 2/3 that predicts is Aspiring Chronomancer. Yeah. There's no amount of Aspiring Chronomancer that you can play that will feel busted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's just not going to happen. But there absolutely is an amount of Emperor's Dais or Ribbon Dancer that you can play that feels busted.
Yeah, for sure.
So decks that don't feel busted are usually, it was just like
Swift on the chopping block.
Yeah. I just don't need to play these.
So for me, this is something that we've done a lot as like game designers and developers, is like testing in kind of totally unknown environments in games that only the 6 of us play or whatever. And my go-to when building a deck, kind of identifying synergies, like find the thing that I want to do. I play like a game or 2 with the deck, and then I almost always start with what the most streamlined, powerful version of the deck. Like, for example, playing very, very little like interaction. Like if I'm brewing a Shadow Isles deck that I think has really powerful synergies, I'm very rarely going to start with Vengeances in my deck or whatever. I'm just going to put, like, for example, the first time building Thresh Nasus, you're going to put like all of the Doomkeepers, Blighted Caretakers, Cursed Keepers, Ravenous Butchers, like trying to do the most powerful synergy thing that you can. And then if that has potential, it will then you can kind of slowly evolve it into a deck that includes Bakai Sandspinner, and that process is really good for identifying like what makes a deck powerful. And sometimes it surprises me, right? Like sometimes I'm like, okay, this is the synergy I'm trying to exploit. Here's this really powerful thing. And then that synergy isn't as good as I thought it was, but one of the support little interactions that I was doing is really, really good. And so, kind of moving into that or whatever, like when I was playing that Chilean Sumpworker deck, like I was like, okay, this Sumpworker thing's really good. And then games like 3 through 5, I all won with like Fun Smiths. And I was like, oh, interesting. Like this part of this deck is really good. Or like this Doom Beast part of this deck is like dealing 8 damage to my opponents. Like that thing's really good. Like let's try to like tweak the deck a little bit to make that more powerful. And that was just like kind of an understanding of why the fuck Unto Dusk was in my deck.
Yeah, Unto Dusk. That card
sucks.
Stood out and it sucks. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But sometimes it's really good. I got blown out with it by an opponent because they like put the Doom Beast on the stack that healed them above 1. And then I was like, okay, well, there's nothing in their deck that beats this Noxian Fervor, because even like doubled Vile Feast or Unspeakable Horror only gets them to 3, and then they had Unto Dusk to get me
to get to 1, and then
the trigger, and then I died to the attack because they had a Fun Smith out. Yeah, it was pretty rough. But yeah, that kind of stuff being powerful. How
about you, Hugh?
So when I'm playing with all these random new decks, like whatever, when someone's like, "Oh, I found the new hotness. Like this is busted. This is it. We found it, everyone." I really like the Sumpworkers example because I think this is the best example recently.
Because it just happened, literally yesterday.
Yeah, it happened yesterday, and like everyone was super high on it, and I was super high on it because I played like 3 or 4 games, and all 3 of those games I was like, I had like multiple sump worker posses out on like turn 3.
Yeah, it's busted.
Yeah, when you do
do
the thing and you've got
stuff.
and you're swinging on turn 4 with 3 4/2 elusives that
it's nonsense.
deal that like
They're usually just dead.
I would like to say that is impossible. You can't do literally that.
Yeah, you can.
No.
On turn 4, yeah, you can.
I guess turn 2, turn 3.
Yeah, you can play.
turn 4.
You can.
It's
yeah.
really nutty. Okay. You can't put multiple in play on turn 3. You can only
No,
put
I
one
know.
on turn 3.
Yes.
One flip one on turn 3. Yeah. Anyway.
But it frequently ends up with 1 or 2 of those on play.
Turn 4 and you're attacking.
Yeah, so turn 4 is like usually like the big like blow up turn.
absolutely.
When you like really get in there with these giant 4/2 elusives, and I was like, well, this is insane. Like, and then anytime, so this has happened a lot when I try a new deck that's just come out, and I'm like, well, how is this balanced? The moment I think to myself, this is busted, it's broken, it like, how could this be balanced? I immediately, like, that's the immediate red flag. I'm like, wait a second. I've said this so many times about so many decks, and so many times it has been just not true.
Just you running
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like you like beginner's luck. You just ran hot. The meta isn't very good. Like the decks surrounding that deck you're playing aren't very good.
Which is big at the start of an expansion.
Exactly. That's a big part of it. Another thing, the meta isn't defined yet. Everyone the decks aren't refined, and no one knows how to play against the deck you're playing because they're like, oh well, what's in this deck that you're playing? Like everything's new. And when everything's new, no one knows how to play against it. They just fall back on like fundamentals.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know that they need to Mystic
Mystic
shot the
shot
Chilean
the-
Sunworker now instead of later.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just random stuff like that. So the moment I think to myself, this deck is busted, I'm like, okay, well, it's probably not.
Yeah.
Is the first thought.
Yeah.
And then you just play a few more games. And one of the things I go back to is I'm like, okay, well, this was insane, but how likely is it for me to do this every game? Like, how reasonable is it for me to actually do what I just did multiple games in a row? And the answer to what I was doing was almost never, because what I was doing was like, I happened to draw 2 copies of Sump Worker
And Fading Memories or
and
whatever.
and like a Stalking
Iterative
Shadows
improvement or whatever.
That
Yeah.
was hitting it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was hitting my 3rd Sump Worker, and then I like played the ephemeral one, played the real one to eat the ephemeral one to make the posse, and then like
And then the posse came.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like, well, that's insane. Like I just nut drew super hard, and I did that like 3 games in a row. I was like, okay, well, this isn't very good. And then I played some more, and I was like, then I finally had those hands where I was just like,
Yeah, the what's it called? The Doomstalker hands.
Doom Beast.
Doombeast hands. Yeah.
no, Doom Beast is good. I'm talking about the hands that like I double hapless aristocrat, which I hadn't known was in the deck
Yeah,
for the
no,
first several.
into the Neverglade Collector hands. Yeah.
Okay, so I had obviously had a very, very different experience with this deck than you guys, because both Neverglade Collector, so the Neverglade Collector and the Cask thing felt like the most powerful part of the deck.
I do think that was quite good.
That part was like it was good, but I'm just shocked that it was because like it.
Oh, okay, because that's a different thing than like.
Yeah, no,
okay.
I agree. That part like won me many games, and
Yeah.
like it used Cask Salesman like actively impressed me in the deck. It was quite good, but I like saw the Neverglade Collectors and I was like, really, is this like the plan we're on? And it was good. I just continue to be shocked. But man, sometimes that Neverglade Collectors, like there was a couple games where I just like needed to have an aggressive start because I was playing against like a Zoe Asol or whatever, and by the time I played Neverglade Collector, they had a Radiant Guardian, and the game was just over.
Yeah,
You know?
and that happens sometimes. But for me, it was like also Unto Dusk. Like that card's been incredible in the deck for me.
Okay, now that card has been awful
Just like
for me,
only
but
ever targets Doombeast profitably, right?
I've had it target
I've had it-
Stygian Onlooker, but really most of the time I just spend 2 mana to draw a card.
It's obviously you want it to hit Doom Beast, but like it's just part of what it does is it cycles and it hopefully gets some value, which is honestly like exactly what the deck kind of needs, which is weird and bad.
Yeah, okay.
But
Maybe I'm just not playing that card right. Like maybe I just need to play it on turn 3 when I have nothing else going on more often.
I frequently just cycle it, especially if I'm going to burn mana.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of there's been a bunch of scenarios where like all of those random little synergy packages have been good, and sometimes the deck lines up very awkwardly. I don't think.
Yeah, there's like three different things. There's the Sunporker thing going on. There's like the Cast Salesman Collector thing going on, and then there's like the Doombeast Funsmith Burn Smells thing going on.
The worst part of this deck is when you draw half of like 2 plans, because when you draw the Neverglade Collector and 1 Sunpork Posse, your deck is awful. And if you draw, a used Cast Salesman and a Doombeast, your deck is awful. So like,
what I'm talking about is the Unto Dusk Doombeast Cast Salesman hands after a mulligan, where you're like, God, what am I doing?
Yeah, there's some times where it just like doesn't line up at all. But one thing that does make it function, like the deck functions, it's not terrible, but I don't think it's particularly good. But it's not terrible because
it is reasonably powerful.
Yeah, it is reasonably powerful because the enablers, Fading Memories and Stalking Shadows, enable all 3 of those packages.
Yeah, which is the powerful part.
Exactly, and that's the thing that makes the deck actually work.
Iterative improvement.
Yeah.
Yes, and iterative. There's the other thing I was forgetting about.
Fading Memories has actually been the worst for me.
Fading Memories, I think, is the worst one.
Bad. Like it's not good with Collector.
It's really for turning on Sunporker.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's even not that good at that, because if
the one you make is ephemeral and you kill the real one.
Yeah, if you only have one of the Sunporkers plus Fading Memories. I think the best card in the deck is like Stalking Shadows.
Yeah, not
Stalking Shadows just ties the whole deck together.
I mean, Stalking Shadows is the best card in a lot of decks, I feel like.
It is, but it's kind of been, I don't know, it kind of got swept under the rug a little bit lately, it feels like to me. Like people have kind of forgotten about Stalking Shadows and been cutting it a lot from their decks because they're just in favor for more aggressive things.
So then step one we're talking about it is finding the powerful thing that a deck is doing.
Yeah, I've talked about this before, but like my go-to for is this deck good? Is my plan powerful? Like, if your plan isn't powerful, if the plan of putting time bombs and go hards into play is not powerful, then quit playing the deck, because that Zillion to go hard deck, by the way, I think has like a 30% win rate.
Yeah, it's not good. Something
like that.
Yeah,
so like,
really low.
If your deck feels underpowered, quit playing it.
Yeah, if you draw it up and your best case scenario is bad, the deck's bad.
Yeah. Or you feel like you really did it and you're still losing.
Yeah, then your deck's probably
the ones that have potential are the ones like the Sunpork Posse deck, where you're like, wow, the good starts are really good, and I win a decent amount of the games where I don't have those. And then you really need to look at what you need to refine to make your deck more consistent.
Yeah, so that's where I was kind of going with this, is that like it should be easy to know or easy to tell if your deck has potential, because it will feel kind of busted in some way. Right? Like every good deck feels busted in one way or another. TLC feels busted when it water combos you. Thresh Nasus feels busted when it plays,
any of its champions.
Right? Like the best TF Fizz feels busted when it played, 9 power of elusives for 0 mana. Right? Like, or flipped TF on turn 5, right? Like, there's busted parts about every good deck. So it's easy to know when your deck is just bad, I think, because it won't feel good at all.
Yeah.
But I think the hardest part, or the harder part, is when your deck does feel busted, like these Sunpork Posse deck, and then knowing when you got trapped, right? You said, it's the like, okay, I played 3 nut draw games with this deck. This deck's insane, and then like dialing it back later and being like, oh wait, I just nut drew 3 times.
That's the concurrent timeline special.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, this deck feels busted. It wasn't.
It never was.
It did get nerfed, but it wasn't.
Yeah. How do you guys go about trying to like dial your expectations back on decks that you think, basically, how do you not get trapped, right? Like, so when I think of like the Azir Aurelia deck and the Sunpork's Posse deck,
as soon as I lose 2 games in a row, I'm off it.
Right? Like, I feel like, at least as we sit in this room, I feel like we kind of got a little bit baited by the Sunpork's Posse deck, and it feels like the Azir Aurelia deck we had like similar reactions to. But I feel like the Azir Aurelia deck might be the real one here.
Yeah,
it is the real one.
Yeah. So like, how did you guys make that distinction? Like, what,
consistency.
We don't, and also I don't have a ton of time to play games, so I did come out thinking the Sunpork deck was a deck I wanted to be playing, and the Azir Aurelia one wasn't, because like I just went 1-3 in the first 4 games that I played with Azir Aurelia. And I was like, okay, moving on to something else.
Especially early,
let other people figure it out.
Like, you're gonna get a new DM with a new deck every 20 minutes. So like, it's hard to play like 10 or 15 games with a deck and try and get a real good answer, which does help a lot, like hearing other people's opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like, if you're yourself, obviously if each of us play 5 games with a deck, then our group opinion of 15 games or whatever is probably much better than,
absolutely.
each of our opinions or whatever, because you went 1-3 with a Zero Aurelia, and I went like the first time I picked the deck up, I just went like a clean 5-0 with it or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's that can also be a bit of a trap because sometimes people just have wildly different experiences in certain decks.
Absolutely.
Like earlier today, Jake was talking to me, and he was like, Thresh Nasus is a horrible matchup for Mono Fiora, right? And I was like, you're insane. I haven't lost that matchup yet. He's like, I haven't won that matchup yet. What? And we just
played like 5 games.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, that's really interesting. Like that happens.
I haven't played against Thresh Nasus yet.
Really?
I just haven't seen it at all. Yeah.
Huh. For me, that's TLC.
I also haven't seen TLC.
Yeah, I've seen two copies, two people with TLC.
I've seen 0.
Yeah, I think I've seen 2 TLC players as well.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to ladder right now because
You get to dodge the TLC for a week.
I get to dodge. Yeah, people are so in on the new stuff that like they're not playing the old boring stuff.
I was really close to queuing up for some TLC this morning. Really close. But then I decided that I was going to play Azir Burn instead because I wanted to climb faster. Didn't work. Lost all my games.
It feels like, so after seeing this Azir Aurelia deck and how explosive it is, it feels like it actually should just beat TLC.
Yeah, I think it does. I actually think it clowns TLC.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's really nonsense.
Yeah, you just play an Emperor's Dais and then like you Blade Dance once or twice. So they're just like
the cards use ice shards to beat the Blade Dances.
The cards that died at Avalanche are like Dancing Droplet and Ribbon Dancer after it Blade Danced.
And Aurelia.
And like, that's like it. Like Greenglade Duo, right? Like, it's very, very easy to just get in the lethal chip damage.
It's also easy to lose to a Withering Wail. Like, it does happen, but...
Oh, the matchup's not unlosable or anything, but like, I do think that Azir Aurelia is solidly favored because... largely because I think that the first Withering Wail doesn't win the game most of the time. Like, the deck just has... If you have one source of repeatable
one Dais, one Azir,
or one Azir.
Yeah,
I think that the matchup is very hard to lose.
Yeah,
I mean, even in Aurelia that's making the blades too.
Even in Aurelia, if she's making the blades, Aurelia almost feels like she doesn't count because she doesn't she's not one of the sticky sources.
Yeah, that's
right.
fair.
Like if you have the Aurelia around for long enough, she counts. But like she's gonna die. She's gonna die to Avalanche.
Another huge part about this deck is how easy it flips both of its champions, and that both of its champions level up when they are not on the board.
Yeah,
so huge. Backline champions, good as it turns out.
Yeah, I actually
Twisted Fate.
I played a game. I played a game against TLC where I just didn't play my Aurelia until like turn 6 when she flipped.
Because I dodged Avalanche,
just so that she wouldn't die to Avalanche or whatever. I don't really know if it was good, but I did it. So it's relevant at least.
Yeah, for sure.
And then let's see, are there any other decks that you guys want to talk about? Because I'm sure we've all been playing some stuff. That there's a Draven Vi.
Yeah,
deck
so
that you mentioned a little bit, Noble. I want to touch on briefly because people have been playing this deck, and I played a few games with this deck, and I have to say, I think I cannot understand how you win a game with it.
It involves the card might.
I just can't win a game with this deck. I think I've played 3 or 4 games with it, and I have not even come close to winning a single game.
Yeah, I mean,
I've just gotten dismantled.
It's like discard aggro, but like worse. I think. Like the Vi Might thing is cute, but seems a lot worse than crowd favorite and Jinx.
Yeah.
I've definitely won games with it. I think I'm like 4-1 or something with it.
Wow.
3-2.
Yeah, people keep saying they keep winning games with it. So like, I don't know, maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
But I cannot win a game with that deck. So
people are on kind of a tear with Vi right now. Like I've seen several decks with Vi in it, and they've all done pretty good.
That card kills the seer.
That card's just kind of perennially been like that. I feel like Vi just like exists and people forget about it, and she kills people like all the time. I feel like Vi's like never been meta, and she might have won like the last 2 seasonals or whatever, right? Like,
yeah, she's like randomly in Heimer, which is like a good tournament deck. And
I feel like Weimer won like the seasonal 2.
Yeah,
not the most recent one, but the one before that.
And Zoe
Vi won the most recent one. Like. Yeah. It feels like Vi just kind of secretly meta crushes, and she like maybe has her whole life.
I think it's because she just tournament crushes. I think
maybe.
it's
a good value card to do.
I might just need to play some more Vi. Maybe I just suck at playing the card Vi.
That's probably it.
She just like dirtles around. Like she's good when you're dirtling around because then she's just huge and she starts from like she's the best Screeching Dragon of all time.
True. Yeah, she's such a good Screeching Dragon.
the tough is the natural tough is humongous.
So good.
Yeah.
Especially against all these Aurelia piles, because you can just play the Vi on 5 or whatever.
And it's just going to block infinite times.
Forever. I don't know. I'm excited to... I hope that Vi finds a place in the meta, because Vi is a really sweet champion. And
absolutely.
it feels like she's been really close for a long time. There's a few other decks that I've tried a couple games with that seem really sweet. My personal favorite that I'm rooting for to become a meta deck is the Aphelios Zoe Treant Sumpworker deck that's playing Aphelios and the Moon Weapon to try and find the Treant Sumpworker, and then it's basically just playing a P and Z control shell with a Zoe and Aphelios. It's like all my favorite cards, so I just hope that deck ends up being good.
Yeah. There are just fun facts. There are 11 people in Masters right now.
Oh yeah,
the top of it is Riot Rubin Zoo, because of course
Steve Rubin. Wow,
Steve Rubin, crushing it. He's playing Zoe Vi.
He's playing Zoe Vi.
Yeah.
What's that deck look like?
That's the one that he was talking about. It's just and it's the one that was good in the seasonal. It's just like the invokes Zoe Vi, sometimes a random victor, and it just like invokes a big threat. It just mid-ranges you.
Good.
It's just Weimer. It's really just
good.
Weimer, but with Zoe instead of Heimerdinger.
Yeah, which turns out is better.
Yeah.
It's just like a bunch of good cards. It's just a mid-range deck.
Sounds great.
There's just stuff like Thresh Nasus at the top. Wow, that's a crazy amount of the champion Vi. Like in the 8 pages, there's just 4 of the champion Vi.
City.
Vi
City,
2 of them
baby.
are playing Noxus Vi, and 2 of them are playing Targon Vi.
Yeah.
And then there's like, the classic like one Azir Aurelia. There's a TLC deck. It's up there. There's there's 2 Overwhelm decks. They are respectively Freljord Noxus and Noxus Shurima.
Noxus Shurima. Is that like the Silver LeBlanc?
Darius Azir?
Or is it?
I don't know. It was just a big picture of
Because Darius Azir is another deck I've seen a lot of.
Yeah, that's another deck I've played.
It was Darius. Yeah, I think it's probably Darius Azir.
Yeah, that deck I think is not so good.
Azir just felt really out of place to me.
I didn't hate the Azir in the deck. I just felt like the plan was just, I don't know. I did play against Radiant Guardian twice with that deck, so maybe that's where a lot of my problems with this deck are coming from.
Yeah, that's another way to gauge if a deck is good or not. Like, did you win the game because their deck was bad, or did you win the game because you happened to draw the best card in your deck against their deck?
Yeah,
totally.
But I mean, that's another thing I want to talk about is that, man, I have lost a lot of games to Radiant Guardian in the last 2 days.
Oh,
that card is messed up right now.
Yeah.
There's just infinite X1s. The Sump Workers can never deal with it. Yeah. Azir Aurelia can never beat it. It's basically a Fiora that you just get to put in your Demacia deck that you don't have to you don't have to do the Fiora thing. It's basically 5 mana Fiora in those decks, in those matchups. Like, you can just never lose when it's in play.
I've also very weirdly been seeing or hearing of a ton of Lysandra in decks that aren't TLC, like just with Zillion or with like Swain.
Talia is another one.
Yeah, a lot of random stuff.
Yeah, a lot of
Lysandra. What's that deck look like?
They're just copying Frozen Thralls.
Is that any good?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
The Zillion, people are doing it with Zillion too, and it's also not good, but it's much better.
Okay, well, that's good. Okay. Okay, sorry, you should finish real quick.
I was just gonna say you could actually power out the Thralls like really fast.
Oh, I buy that. Yeah. How do you guys feel about Zillion? Has Zillion been good for you guys? Have you played a lot of Zillion?
I've tried to make him work in several different things, and I just can't find. He just doesn't play well with anything.
Yeah, I kind of agree. He feels like pretty good, but he just doesn't fit with any pieces. Really, it's kind of how I feel about him.
There's really nothing that he does particularly well enough that one of my original thoughts was okay, Zillion Malphite, he helps level Malphite because he makes landmarks in your deck.
Yeah.
So a single time bomb plus the 5-drop Targon one that copies itself, and we get there. That's one of the ways you can level Malphite. I've tried some random Malphite piles. Those have been fine, but they haven't been great. Zillion.
That was my biggest question too. Is I just haven't seen very much of the Malphite thing.
People, day one, a lot of people were trying it, and day two, non-existent.
Yeah, I ran into Yasuo Malphite 3 times in the first hour of set release, and then haven't seen it since.
That tracks, honestly.
Which is about what I would have predicted.
Yeah, basically what I tried to do with it was I just took Zoe Asol, and I started with Zoe Malphite instead, swapped out some of the dragon stuff for... So I swapped out the 3 Dragon Guard lieutenants for 3 Blue Sentinels because it makes a landmark.
Oh, yeah.
And I swapped out Eclipse Dragons for some more 5 drops.
So you're playing him with Demacia? You said you took Zoe Asol and swapped out?
No, I actually I tried Demacia at first, and then I realized I didn't need to be in Demacia anymore.
Got it.
Because I took enough dragons out that I was just like, oh, I can just not...
You can just dip.
I can do other things. And I suddenly... Because, like, I realized that my champions were both Targon, and a lot of my cards were just Targon cards.
Sense, yeah.
And so it gave me a lot of hope because, like, there's a lot more flexibility all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So, like, there might be a version that actually is good. I just, like, didn't have the patience to find it.
For what it's worth, you know, I kind of stand by my review that, like, the Malphite was good. Yeah, I played against Malphite 3 times. Like, he was really scary all 3 times. Like, every time there was a Malphite in play, it was like I had to kill it or I immediately lost. And then, like,
and you just like had vengeances? Or?
Yeah, like one of the games I was playing Zillion Go Hard, so I had a vengeance, and like the other game, like I just like barely found lethal or whatever. But like,
makes sense.
I lost to it once. Like basically the landmark stuff was bad. Mm-hmm. And the Malphite was good, but the rest of the deck was just garbage.
Was the 5-mana landmark that copies itself not ideal?
It was good too.
Oh, it was actually quite good.
Yeah, that part of the deck wasn't bad either. Like it didn't actually feel that relevant because the times I played against it, I either just like, I don't know. I guess maybe the card wasn't actually that good because it like stunned my like flipped Aurelia or whatever, and my like sparring student that I like then syncopationed into combat, or like, you know, blade surged my Aurelia into combat, right? So it like didn't actually do that much, but I don't know. It felt like I played against it in a couple kind of outlier scenarios where like my creatures got stunned, but it didn't matter at all because, you know, I had various other ways to put them into combat. But, you know, maybe situations like that come up more often than I'm giving them credit for, so it's actually pretty relevant. But like, regardless, basically what I'm trying to say is like Malphite looked all right, but these landmarks still look awful. So
yeah, the landmarks are once again the worst part of the deck, and the reason Malphite can't quite be good. It feels like basically everything we said about Malphite ended up being pretty true. It's like Malphite's really good, but the landmarks just aren't.
Just suck. Yeah.
I just put Nazir into play on turn 2 AMA.
Oh, you did the
thing,
yeah,
the retreat, the droplet thing. Yeah.
That's that interaction is so hype.
And then I got 7 creatures I started.
Oh,
still cleanly won. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
that's just how that go.
For me, I've seen my opponent do that 2 times. Put the turn 2 Azir in play and attack with it, and I have crushed them both times because I was playing Monofiora, and I was just like, oh, thank you for this 1/1.
Thank you, Lord, for this one.
Thank you for this kind donation. To
Fiora gods. Every time, like, it's so funny when you're playing that Monofiora into Azir Aurelia, and you just put Fiora into play, and they just sit there.
They just sad Poro emote,
and they just like
spot.
They just like one of my opponents tanked until the timer was at the end, and then he like, you could tell he panicked because he like flicked out his flawless duet or whatever at the last moment. I'm like, what are you doing?
That's a bad play.
And then I just blocked his blade, and I took 3 damage because I took 2 damage because I let the blades through and I blocked the soldier. Yeah, and then I just beat him eventually, and he's just like, you just can't do anything.
I played I played the other half of that matchup one time with the Azir Aurelia deck, and my opponent was playing the like Shurima version of that Fiora deck that I was telling you about, and he had a Fiora and killed 3 of my creatures, and then somehow I like got through and killed the Fiora before with like a syncopation or something while the Fiora was at 3 of 4, and then he just like Rite of Calling, sacked a mana gem to draw another Fiora, and then still killed me with the second Fiora going to 4 before I could kill him.
Oh
Yeah.
my god!
Like Fiora's got to eat 7 of my creatures before I could assemble a lethal attack.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
No.
Yeah.
I ran a little bad when I played the Fiora deck, and also like I got like Exaxied by Thresh Nasus because they like Vile Feasted their own dude for like exactly the 1
that's
point of
high.
power, and like
Yep. That'll happen. Yeah.
I actually do think I made a mistake. I like went to eat a 0/1 because I wanted the free pip, but I should have used a trick and needed one of the creatures with power, so I didn't just like die.
Oh, that seems plausible.
Yeah. Usually I've found that in that matchup that like the reason you're losing is because you didn't play the deck right. I do think the matchup is good for that.
Yeah,
for
I mean it's
Monofiora.
also obviously still losable too. Like my opponent
Oh,
had a good
obviously.
draw and like had
Black Spear is incredibly good.
yeah, I had
at
to play
killing
around
Fiora.
Black Spear. I also just had to play around Black Spear the whole time, and he didn't have it, but just like Merciless Hunter had pulled and like whacked me for a bunch. Merciless Hunter has been insane. I know we've said it already, but that card is very good.
Yeah, card's nonsense. We said it would be nonsense, and it turns out that like that card is such high rate. Like it's
Remember
unbelievable.
that time when we said like backline champions are good? That card kills. The
It kills
fuck
all
out
of them.
backline
Yeah,
champions.
it just kills backline champs. Yeah.
Card's so good, like really good at killing Azir.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't do it exactly, but it's very easy to cobble together the Azir being dead.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to have Azir end up in combat one time or whatever, because people want to get some use out of that 5 toughness booty, right? Like people just want to line up block usually with Azir.
Yeah, totally.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Do you guys have anything else you want to add about the meta or anything before we move on to some listener questions or any decks you want to talk about?
I think that
Predictions, perhaps?
I think Sump Workers is a trap. I think that I don't think it's particularly bad, but I think it's not nearly as good as people would like to think it is. It's just too inconsistent. I think Azir Aurelia is very strong. I don't know why. I guess that deck beating TLC is the reason I'm not seeing much of it. Thresh Nasus is still good. TLC still seems good, but
What would the advice be, Thresh Nasus players? Should they be trimming atrocities and cutting bladed caretakers or not?
I haven't played any Thresh Nasus post patch yet, so I've not played with or against the deck, so I'm not going to claim to be an expert here.
I've played against I've played against a ton of Zillion Nasus.
Yeah,
Like I don't know why, but people were just like, let's take out the best
Zillion
champion.
is
put in Zillion.
sweet.
yeah, I don't know why people are doing that either, and I haven't lost that deck yet.
I do not recommend taking Thresh out of your Thresh Nasus deck. Thresh is like the best card in that deck.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you want to play like, I just wouldn't put Zillion in that deck basically.
I would recommend other Zillion decks. I'm
Yeah.
pretty curious personally to try some like Draven Swain,
like
TF Swain, Zillion Swain, like kind
like
of decks.
On that note, I had the idea of, with the addition of the like sun, it's not Suntail Hawk, with the stun 2/3 bird,
Solari.
Solari Sunhawk.
Yeah,
That sounds
I'd
right.
say that's right.
I think that's right.
Okay, yeah. The one that stuns. I realized that like, so all of a sudden we've got another creature that stuns things that we want to stun. So why not try like Leona Swain? Because we can suddenly like rely, instead of having the Arachnoid Sentry being like the only thing in our deck that turns on your Ravenous Flock.
Oh yeah, Ravenous Flock is just like really good.
Yeah, Ravenous Flock is just a nonsense card, and so all of a sudden we have the Hawk, and we also have the one that makes a Guile in hand, the something Thorn of the Rose.
Thorn of the Rose. Yeah, that card has been. It's the 3-mana 5/1 that makes a Guile.
That card's good.
That card has been good. That card's been seeing
that card-
consistent-ish play for like the last like month and a half or so, and it's been good every time. To be honest,
blades or hand folders.
yeah. Well, you know,
Maybe it's not good in this meta, but I don't think
that's
the
not
card's,
what it's there for. That's for sure.
I don't think the card's bad. I think it might be bad right now, but I think the card in general is pretty good. Because like Guile is one of those cards where it's like you're never ever putting in your deck, but it's not bad. Like 1 mana stun a thing can do really good work.
We could try to malfight our opponent's board and then cast a couple Ravenous Flocks.
Sold.
I had that thought, and no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I really wanted to make Leona Swain work. I haven't.
Why are we playing Leona just because we have all the Daybreak things?
Yeah, just because we sort of end up with Daybreak stuff. I also thought maybe like just like Zoe Swain, because Zoe's just one of those things you can put in a deck and it makes the deck better.
Yeah.
Oh, like
Yeah,
always.
whenever you don't know what to do, just play Zoe.
Yeah. Zoe Vi. Zoe
like
Ophelia.
Zoe Vi
Zoe Lee.
is the first thing I'm trying.
Zoe and
after we get
5
done with
drops
this.
is really the ticket, apparently.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that like TF Swain, or like Swain decks in general, have always struggled with is bridging the 5 mana to 8 mana gap from when you want to survive to hit your Leviathan.
True.
And I think Zoe plus Invoke stuff does a great job of that.
I agree.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I totally like that.
Leona also does a decent job.
Exactly, and that's kind of what why I had the thought. Is she also is another thing that stuns to help turn on your Ravenous Flock.
And also, like, stunning things to get Swain through is huge, because if you stun the big things, then you can hit with the Fearsome Swain. And I've also often wanted, like, I've been playing Swain decks, and I'm like, if I just had like a fucking might for this Swain, they'd be so dead, but I just don't.
Yeah.
Like, just a way to get Swain through. All right,
Get him with the
maybe I'm gonna try
Crescent
that.
Strikes.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of random things that I feel like
Wish we
could
could
be
play
good.
Yasuo on this deck.
Yeah,
Doing a lot of
Yasuo-
stunning.
I swear, I feel like if Yasuo had leveled at 4 instead of leveled at 5, I think he would be good, honestly.
I think if he was in Targon, he would be good.
Oh, if he was in Targon, he'd definitely be good. But
Yeah, like, how much better is that card than Leona? Like, yikes.
yeah, if he was Targon, I think he would inarguably be good. I think if he had 4 out of 5, if his level went to 4 instead of 5, he would also be good.
Interesting.
I think the 5th level is like a big deal.
Oh, interesting. That's fair. It's a lot of stunning to ask.
It's so much, and like you need him to level before the champ's any good at all, because you just don't want to be stunning the small things and killing them, right? Like, you need to stun big things. So
Yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah,
it just feels so hard. He's really good when you flip him, but it just feels so much work to do it.
No,
It's just so hard.
The
And then the
conclusion
payoff.
here is that I believe I'm going to play as Aurelia until I have a very negative win rate on the deck. And I'm going to just keep playing it.
Yeah, I
until
want to try that Zoe Vi deck. That's going to be my next try thing, but I think Azir Aurelia is probably a good go-to for climbing.
yeah.
right
I don't want to play Azir Aurelia. I definitely would rather play Zoe Vi or something. I want to try these Vi piles or this Shyvana Asol deck that's come back.
I'm pretty stoked to. I don't know. I feel like I've underrated Vi my entire Legends of Runeterra career, and I'm excited.
She did get nerfed.
I had to-
she was really good when
She was
came out.
insane when she came out.
I had
yeah.
to craft Vi to play that Draven Vi deck.
Oh, wow.
I just have never played a Vi deck. I'd realize. Apparently, I didn't have any. I didn't have a single Vi. I had to craft
Wild.
all 3.
I have all the champions, so, you know.
Oh wow.
Yeah, same.
Now I have 3 Vi. So. All right, I think let's move on to our listener questions for this week. Starting with our question of the week from Stan Faublas in the Discord. They ask, will discard aggro do well into the decks people are theory crafting?
There's a second half to that question.
Everybody's brewing,
It's way down.
and are other aggro decks better positioned? So,
How good has discard aggro been against Azir Aurelia? Not.
I feel like discard aggro. So discard aggro feels like the deck that like you like go to and you're like, yeah, new patch aggro deck. It feels like Azir Burn kind of did that thing, but like better probably. Like if you're gonna try and take advantage of people being unprepared for your aggro decks, people are way more likely to be prepared with avalanches and with like sweepers for like creatures than they are to be prepared for like decimates and Noxian fervors. I think like. People aren't going to put extra heal spells in their brew.
Yeah.
They might put sweepers in their brew, but they're a removal, right? But they are not going to put, the extra copy of Kindly Tavern Keepers in their brew most of the time, right? Like, so I think like just straight up burning people out is a traditionally excellent strategy for like these new metas. So I think that discard aggro probably is not the best positioned aggro deck right now. That's going to be my take.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't seen a single discard aggro deck at all.
I've seen a couple.
Really
Yeah.
interesting. The thing I am afraid of for players who want to play that deck right now is just like I don't see a world where you're beating. Where your plan beats Azir Aurelia's plan, really? Like you can't really go wide on
It's
that.
like Jinx.
Because they
the only thing.
yeah,
but
exactly. Like
it
they
seems
can't
too
really.
slow.
They just do the go wide thing to you and better.
Way harder.
Yeah, they do so much more damage to you so much faster.
Yeah.
And they do it in a way that's safe. You're not trading away permanent cards. You're
They're
shooting
sand
little
soldiers and
they're
blades.
shooting little blades and sand soldiers at you, and you just have to either be like, okay, am I trading away my board or am I taking all this damage? And both of those suck and probably lose you the game.
Absolutely.
So I feel like discard aggro is not in a good place right now.
Yeah. All right. moving on, we got quite a few questions here that are talking about the theory. We had to push back our recording to today's Friday. We normally record on Tuesdays. So we were planning on recording this episode before we had any information on the patch. Now we've gotten to play with it for a couple days, right? So we've got a little bit of an idea, but I do still want to talk about, there's a lot of a theme here, and that's, I'll just read the question here. This one comes from Merciless Carinal. They ask, so TLC though, how much do you think Lysandra spent to buy off the devs? So like, we were all quite worried that TLC was just going to be busted on release of this new patch too. And
absolutely,
it isn't actually as good as I was worried it would be.
Same.
It's still winning, but
all of my brews, I was like, does this beat TLC? And the answer for a good amount of them was actually just yes.
Yeah, I was shocked. I thought that TLC was going to scoop on all these brews and it was going to be free, and TLC was just going to be the easy, obvious best deck to play, and it's not at all. So hell yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't sweep hard enough, fast enough. Like the things like Azir Aurelia is making too many creatures too fast.
Yeah.
Other things are flying over you. It just doesn't feel that great. Thresh Nasus is like, 50-50 against it or whatever. It's like a coin flip.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that TLC is like a little favored, but
yeah, sure. And then
it's really close.
Exactly. And at that point, like Thresh Nasus has good matchups into way more decks.
Yeah, and we saw Thresh Nasus get nerfed, and this kind of leads into Keon Spy's question, which is, do you think TLC should be touched, or might this mini expansion be enough to shake the meta? Which, we saw Thresh Nasus got nerfed, right?
Yeah.
And do you think that TLC is going to need an adjustment now, right? Obviously, Hugh, you're a big anti-TLC guy. Are you worried that TLC is going to make the return?
I mean,
do you have hope for the future?
I don't care if the deck exists. I care that I just don't want the binary nonsense that it brought, and that's the problem. It's just, as long as it's not doing the thing where like it technically has like a 52% win rate.
Yeah.
But that's its aggregate win rate, and its win rates are
75% against some stuff.
Like half the field it's 70% against, and the other half it's 30% against. Like, I still think that's bad. I still think that shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
The games are pretty uninteresting when that's the case.
Yeah, I don't
get a lot of close games.
The thing I hate more than absolutely anything else is being bored. I can't stand being bored, and TLC bores me so much. When I play it, it bores me. When I play against it, it bores me. When I watch it, it's boring. Like, and that's it. That's really the metric that I judge any deck I play with or play against by, is like, am I bored?
Yeah.
That's
then it's not for you.
Yeah.
Boring. All right. Juxta asks, are you convinced any of these changes, either the new expansion or the patch update, truly knock down Nasus Thresh and TLC's stranglehold on the meta? See a lot of cool ideas. Are they going to hold up? So, obviously, we've seen these a couple decks break into the meta.
Yeah.
Are they going to hold? Do you think that Azir Aurelia is going to be the new meta? Do you think it's really going to push TLC down a peg because of that? Do you think they're just going to claw back after people settle down?
I think that we're going to end up in a little more balanced place than before. I do think that the nerf to Thresh Nasus, and that kind of stood as the deck. The justification in my mind for the way that they did those nerfs is it stood large as the deck that was the best against the field. Like, it was just like, it felt like, this is, to use a Magic analogy, it felt like Jund, which is like the name for like this mid-range deck that just feels like it's slightly favored versus everything.
Yeah.
Like, there aren't matchups that it hates to see that much.
It just felt like
Thresh
Nasus just had a plan in every matchup.
Yeah, exactly. And just powerful cards, powerful things to do. Just kills you with Nasus sometimes, kills you with Atrocity sometimes. And then just aggroes you out sometimes, and it just felt very hard to attack. And that's why I like their plan of going after that deck in particular. I don't, and TLC is a little more attackable, like we've seen this Azir Aurelia deck, very hard for it to deal with. And hopefully it'll settle in a good place, which I do think it will.
I think that, I don't know, it's hard to say. It feels like, so I think the Sumpworkers deck is going to die off a little bit. I think people will continue playing it.
Yeah,
but it won't be that popular. It'll be a fringe deck.
Kind of agree.
I think that Azir Aurelia and then something with Noxus are gonna be like the two premier aggro decks.
Interesting.
I think that the mid-range decks are going to end up being like something like a Shiv Aesol deck or a Zoe Aesol deck is going to exist for sure.
For sure.
That's been doing well. I've been seeing it on ladder. It's been putting
played
up
against some Zoe Aesol.
exactly.
It's always good.
And Shiv Aesol, like both of them done quite well.
Those decks are just always good.
Yeah, they're at least never bad, really.
Yeah, it really feels like it.
And the last one is something whatever Vi deck ends up being the
Vi
deck.
A good Vi deck, I think.
Exactly, and that's going to be the
I think
thing.
we got to find it.
Someone's going to find it. It's not going to be me.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think I'm good enough at that to find which Vi deck is good.
Well, I crafted my Vi's this morning, so I feel like kind of an expert.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
All right. Our next question comes from Tede. They ask, will Irelia find a good place to fit in? Well, she already found Azir. Obviously, that was kind of my prediction for where she was going to land. It ended up being really good.
A match made in heaven.
I am not skeptical. I'm sold on the deck. I think the deck is real. I think it's going to be part of the meta for at least quite a while. The other thing I want to say about that deck, really quick, is that it's really hard. Azir Irelia.
Your mana is so tight.
Really hard to play, actually, I think. So
I believe it.
Feels like a deck that I think is going to be around if you're, looking at, seriously competing for top spots this season. Like, I think that's going to be a deck that you're going to need to craft and play some games with because it's a really hard deck to play. It's going to be hard to play against at high level
because it can just do so much crazy shit.
Yeah, because there's going to be so much stuff that you're going to have to play around at high level. So having played a lot of games with the deck is going to be essential. So if you haven't played any games with that deck yet, I highly recommend it.
Do it.
Yeah, that's the next thing I have on my agenda. I just always put off playing the most popular deck for an amount of time because I just don't like playing what everyone else is playing.
Yeah.
Purely for the sake of mirrors are like very taxing mentally.
They're hard.
Yeah,
almost always.
Especially with stuff like TLC or whatever. Oof.
Yeah, it's really difficult. And I just have been pretty tired recently, but I've got some time off and I think I'm
gonna have to tackle it.
Yeah. This is a good time to do it. This is the best time to do it.
Agreed.
Our next question is from Time. This is a fun one. How much better would Cythria Lady of Clouds have to be playable in a deck? For those of you who aren't aware, Cythria Lady of Clouds is the new 10 mana 10/10 with Challenger.
I believe she does have Challenger, yes.
When you play her, she doubles the power and health of all allies and grants them Challenger.
Yeah.
How much better would she have to be?
So it's funny that this came up because just this morning there was some buzz in our Discord about a deck that, what was it trying to do? I looked at the list and I was like, I don't know what this deck is trying to do. It had Mobilize.
Oh my Lord. Hold on.
It had Mobilize, it had Cythria, it had Spectral Matron. I think it's trying to just cheat things into play faster.
Okay, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay. It also has the Oblivious Islander, the thing that reduces the cost of a thing and makes it ephemeral.
It's like Spectral Matroning Cythria, I think.
Yeah, and then we've had a lot of screenshots in our Discord of people with literally 300 power in play.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this looks awesome. And
there's a great Horde companion. How'd that thing get there? Is that in the deck? Hold on.
It's probably the thing they got off of Remembrance.
Yes, it must be. Yeah, they're playing 3 Remembrance. Wow. This deck looks sweet. Okay, apparently Cythria doesn't have to be any better to see play. This is a... I actually think if she was much better, she would. Oh, I think she's close.
Oh, yeah, she's definitely close. Like a 10 mana 10/10 with Challenger that makes everything massive. It's going to kill you.
Oh, she kills you really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, already. It's just the hard.
Absolutely, she does.
The hard part, I'd much rather have her be a 8 mana 7/7 that does this. That's way better.
Yeah. If she was a little less, let's assume that we can't change her mana cost. I guess because I guess that seems kind of against the spirit of the question.
Yeah.
What words does the card have to make it? I think if you just gave it Overwhelm, it'd be great.
It'd be good.
I would just
she
play
double
it
herself.
She doesn't double herself, I don't think. No, I think she says other. If you just gave her Overwhelm, I think she'd be really good. I don't really think she even needs that much else. I guess she's already close to playable.
Yeah. And who knows? This deck might actually be good.
Card's kind of balmy.
I'm still up in the air about it. I haven't seen it anywhere.
Yeah, I haven't played any.
I haven't
games
played as
it.
It looks kind of janky. It's playing 3 mobilizes. Like it's just like
that is the first card that is getting cut from my deck. If I play that card.
I think that card is like the linchpin of the deck, and I think you have to play that card.
Okay, so here's the thing. When I remember many moons ago, this is probably 6 or 7 months ago when Prismatics got released, my very first Prismatic, I opened it up and it was like I got to pick between 2 playable cards and a Mobilize for Prismatic. And I snapped off the Prismatic Mobilize. And Noble's like, what are you doing? You're a fool. And I was like, if Mobilize is ever playable, it will be the best card in any deck, and it will be hilarious to have it Prismatic.
Okay,
like,
that's fair.
and now I'm time to cash.
There.
It's time to cash in on that. I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah. Now this is the deck you have to play.
I already got the Prismatics. So,
wow.
All right. Our next question comes from Dragon. What is your day 1 Theorycraft deck? What was it?
Okay, so my day 1 Theorycraft deck was a Malphite pile. It was the thing I mentioned before with where I tried to basically retool Zoe Aesol into a Zoe Malphite deck that leaned a little more into landmarks. But all I did really was I kept almost all the same cards, actually. I just took out the Dragon Guard Lieutenants and the Eclipse Dragons and the Aesols, and I left pretty much everything else the same. And I swapped them with the 5-drop landmark that copies itself and stuns things. The Temple of Ra something.
Eye of the Rav. Something.
Eye of Hara.
Whatever it's called.
That was like kind of a joke, but it's also kind of what it's.
It's almost it's pretty close to what it is.
Yeah,
it's pretty much what it's.
And that's like all you like. You just need the blue sentinels, and I put in the I forget if it's 2 or 3 mana, but the one with countdown 2, make 2 random celestials that cost 3 or less in your hand. Yeah.
That card, or what was it? I don't know.
I don't know the name of that card.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's fine. And I played that, and I'd level Malphite pretty consistently. The problem I kept running into, I literally never drew Malphite.
That's pretty
I played
sad.
like
Malphite's
5
really
games.
Good.
Yeah, I played like 5 games. I never saw a single copy of Malphite. Until my last game I played with it, and this is after casting Written in Stars multiple times. It just always hit my Zoe.
Oh, interesting.
Which was, cool.
3/3 Zoes are good
3/3
enough,
Zoe.
whatever.
But I really wanted a 9/13 Malphite.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. However big they are.
Yeah, just a massive mountain to punch people with. And the deck was solid. I don't think it's particularly good. It's definitely like worse than one of the other like Aesol piles, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
Still. But
Yes, we tried. My day 1 Theorycraft was that Zillion Gohard deck, and it was bad. It sucked. Yeah,
My day 1 Theorycraft was the MF Irelia, but like with Fizz instead of Irelia. Like I know that Irelia is good, but I actually like did the thing where I like laid out the deck, had 50 cards in it, didn't know what to cut, and then quit. That's just, I don't know what it is, but whenever I play Legends,
that's the Noble special.
I brew in Legends Runeterra, that is exactly what happens, and I don't know if I can explain it, but boy does it happen a lot.
no, I actually feel that. I do that a lot too.
All the cards are so sweet. I just want to play them all.
Yeah, there's so many cards where I'm just like, well, I need 3 of this. Well, I need 3 of this.
There's no way in hell I'm cutting a Sparkle Fly.
Exactly.
Right?
Like by the time I get to like the 4 drops, I'm like, wait, I'm at 42 cards. Like, what?
How did this happen?
42 cards and I have 3 champs. Like,
exactly. I haven't picked my champs yet.
That's the classic.
Yeah,
it's like, ooh,
for sure.
All right. Our next question comes from Mr. Purple, aka Ben. They ask, do you think with the new Ionia cards, it will help the region out?
Well, yes.
It's helping. Yeah, it's clearly helping. Do you think that we've just been given a new Ionia deck, or do you think that the Ionia region is now potentially strong enough to see extra play?
It's a new deck.
I mean,
I kind of think it's just the new deck too.
I mean, Irelia is very powerful. Like her package abuses
good.
Attacking, lots of small units, summoning units. Like that is good with multiple different champions.
Do you think we're going to see it be good with other champions?
Yeah, I think the MF deck is like good enough.
Okay.
And so I expect it to see a little more for sure.
I still think it's just gonna be one deck.
I kind of agree with you, Hugh. I kind of think that the other ones are just too fragile.
Exactly. The problem I see there is that, like, yes, those other decks are playable, but just so much less playable than the one we have. It's like, why would you do it? The design, like the function, the gameplay loop of Irelia is not. It doesn't play like super nice with others.
Yeah,
it's kind of like she kind of stands on her own a little bit with the. She really just has a home with Azir. Like
she really does. Yeah,
like it's
they
so
fit
good
together so well.
Inspiring Marshal. Oh my god, that card's a nightmare to deal with.
I saw a list that cut to Inspiring Marshal, and I did
Lunatics.
not agree.
No,
I did not agree.
So that is absolute.
I tried it,
psycho energy,
and I didn't like it.
No, you need that card's it's like the best card in the deck.
It's messed up. That card is so messed up. That as soon as you play Inspiring Marshal, your opponent dies every time. Like it's just so much damage.
Yeah, on turn 5, if you have one spell mana and the attack token,
it's just over.
Yeah, you just slam your Inspiring Marshal and then you do your little Flawless Duet and then you swing for like 12.
You have like Emperor's Dais Flawless Duet. Yeah, Azir, and it's like, okay, here's my attack for 18.
Yeah,
with just a Flawless Duet. Like what?
And then you get to attack with your actual board.
Yeah,
your
and then you attack
board.
with the rest of your champions and cards. Like
it's really good.
It's disgusting. Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Our last question comes from Episky. They ask, how do you think syncopation will impact the meta? Will it cause a decline in reactive strategies, or will the feeling of the meta remain the same?
So I at no point
earlier,
So at no point did I ever think syncopation would do anything to like inhibit reactive strategies. I thought it would just be a very, very powerful tool to add to a region, and a very powerful effect that hadn't been seen yet at that cost. And I thought that was going to have a much bigger impact than it did. I never thought this fizz nonsense would do anything. I just didn't.
Like I agree. And I was skeptical about all that.
Yeah, it's just a little.
I've yet to see it in any deck other than the Azir Irelia deck, and I'm still waiting to see if it's good with like Lee Sin or something. Like,
yeah, everyone was talking about like how it's busted with Lee Sin.
Maybe
like,
there's some Lulu stuff you could do with it. I don't really know.
I think people figured out that like, doesn't it just not work?
It doesn't work the way you want it to.
Because it swaps the kicker, right?
Yeah. So if you could attack with Lee Sin, a flip Lee Sin, pull something, and attack with a, I don't fucking know, Alpha Wild Claw. And then you switch the Alpha Wild Claw into Lee Sin, and then Alpha Wild Claw will kick his unit into darkness, deal 7, and then trample over.
Weird.
Yeah. So like it kind of works, but not really.
It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
So people thought it could suddenly make it so Lee Sin could win without overwhelm, but it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Because you would swap him into like an elusive unit spot.
Yeah, you'd swap him into
life with a Sparkle Fly.
You'd swap him into like a Dragonling.
Oh, I see.
Whatever, yeah.
But then the Dragonling's going to do the kicking.
Yeah, which is not...
Get him, Dragonling.
It's fine. If it's saving your Lee Sin, it's good.
Kick him dead.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, it's
I'm excited to see how Syncopation lands. I think it's a really interesting card. I think it's obviously going to see play for a very long time, but like I'm just curious to see where and when and why.
I think it needs to go in an Overwhelm shell of some kind.
Ooh, I like that.
That's where I thought this.
I just don't know where
an Ionia Overwhelm shell looks like.
I know.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Maybe we could do like some Shreema Ionia nonsense.
Maybe. Well,
I don't want to do Shreema. I want to do Noxus.
Interesting. All to be considered. All right, I think that brings us to the end of our questions and the end of our episode. If you guys have anything else you'd like to tack on at the end here, any final thoughts?
We can play Yasuo in this deck because we're playing all the stun stuff.
Okay,
because he wants to be Ionia Noxus anyway.
Does Yasuo have Overwhelm?
We could syncopation our Swain into our unblocked crafting. Give me a second.
I like that way better. Yeah,
that sounds pretty hot.
As a way to get Swain in. Yeah,
let's play Yasuo.
Sounds pretty good, honestly.
No, no Yasuo.
Yasuo helps flip Swain. I just brewed that Swain, the Targon Swain list that you said, and it just like I just looked. I was like, this deck deals a total of like 30 damage. We're just never ever flipping Swain.
That's too bad.
So you need to like
Yasuo helps
converts your stuff into
that makes sense actually. That was one of the problems I ran into when I was just like theory crafting it. I was just like, it's really really hard to flip Swain.
Yeah, I like here. Like, let me just like read the like list that I thought of. It's like
I wonder if that deck is like a Dewdrop Monastery of Hirana deck. Oh, I think it might be because you really need the help flipping.
We can bounce our Leviathans to get more Swains.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like honestly, like it feels like there's just like a lot of like you could bounce your 3 mana 5/1s that do with the stuns
and Arachnoid Sentry too.
You could bounce your Arachnoid Sentries. You could bounce your it seems like it might be pretty good.
Yeah. So, but like Ravenous Flock, Death Lotus, like Death's Hand, and like Unoxian Third Fervor were my only things that dealt damage because my other thing's Targon, right? So it's like we're not flipping Swain in this deck.
Alrighty, well, we'll get back to you with how this brew ends up. But in the meantime,
I'm never going to play it. I'm going to build it, never play it.
That's going to be 50 cards. We're still haven't decided what champs. So I want to thank everybody for listening. If you are not a member of our Discord yet, you absolutely should be. The link to join us in the description of wherever you're listening to this. Our Discord is currently popping off. There must be 20 deck lists a day. Currently, and there probably will be for the next couple weeks for a while. So if you're looking to find the new busted deck as fast as possible, you got to join the Discord. That's the only way you're going to be able to get it in time.
And on a more competitive note, if you are someone who wants a big group of very skilled players to scrim with for the seasonal, all season, we have a ton of people who are constantly willing and looking for scrim partners.
Yes.
And they'll play what you like. If you're like, hey, I need someone who can play this deck into me, or I want to play this deck into this lineup, like everyone's willing to help out.
The Champ Select Discord is the ultimate Tinder for deck matching, right? You know, if you're like, I'm looking to play some Thresh Nasus against TLC, you can just swipe right and you'll find a match.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say you had to make it weird, but that actually worked out weirdly.
That was really good. Really good metaphor.
Okay.
All right. And that wraps up the episode.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week.